not me, it's him. That's my bad guy Otis impression.
Oh, okay.
That's the promo he cut in his big match tonight on SmackDown here on July 30th against Reginald, fighting in a suit, Matt.
I'm sweating bullets right now because we just sent out our live feed and I misspelled the title. So the title of it is AEW is competition for the WWE. I'm scrambling right now, going to YouTube, Facebook, and I'm going to run over to Twitch to update that. But goddamn, do I feel so stupid right now. Is AEW is. All right.
Well,
let's do it.
Without further ado, Matt, everybody out there who can excuse a grammatical error, hello, welcome to a laboring Matt of Jericho, 5 nights of labor. I don't know, Jericho's in labor for 5 nights, a laboring conference calling. Matt, we're going to make a conference call interesting. Matt, we're going to be having a bossing around episode. Is that an allusion to a certain purple-haired superstar on SmackDown? You bet your bottom it is. Matt, we're going to talk CM Punk trolling. It's another episode of The Brothers, a discussion. We talk WWE's Q2 earnings call. More interesting than you would think, I promise. Which, when you hear earnings call, probably a pretty low bar for being interesting. But we found some interesting points. We're going to talk AEW putting itself in a scary booking predicament where they better get CM Punk. Matt, we're making a point here. Cena is must-watch WWE TV, and I can't wait. I popped so hard on Wednesday night. The return of a WCW, a World Championship Wrestling legend, will be coming back for one night only, maybe, on AEW. I can't wait. Matt, for me, it's actually been a spicy week of wrestling. I actually had a delicious vegetable curry, a dish that I thought was only possible in the newest Pokemon Go, because you can make curry dishes for your little critters, and then they'll be even closer and more loving towards you. Matt, has it been an equally spicy week of wrestling for you?
Yeah. I liked Tuesday night. I don't remember what the days are anymore. We went on a little vacation and it didn't go as planned, and thankfully we were only an hour away because we actually my daughter had such a rough time while we were in our Airbnb that we had to drive home and put her to bed so that she would actually get some sleep. And then we drove back to the Airbnb first thing the next morning to continue our vacation. So I had, it's not a vacation anymore. Like all those times, all the comedians we saw with the cliche jokes of, once you have kids, it's not a vacation. It's just you're working, you're babysitting your kids somewhere else. And that was it. My first experience. Wow. I think I got about 3 hours of sleep that night. Was driving home on the highway at like midnight.
Wow.
And then we still wanted to enjoy the next day. So I had to get up early, pack the car, and get everybody back on the road, back to where the Airbnb was so that we could go have fun the next day.
Hey.
Tried to.
Man, that sounds horrible. Before we canceled Louis C.K., I always think fondly of that time he told that story about vacation.
Yeah.
And his vacation was after he put the kids in the car, the walk around the car back to his seat. That was his vacation, where there was no screaming and he could just be by himself for 5 seconds. So
right now, my wife and I, we kind of, without it really ever being said, the person who gets time off is the person who gets to make dinner that night, and the other person has to watch both the kids while that happens. So whoever is fast enough to get to the HelloFresh recipe card is the lucky one.
Man, I would be wearing track shoes just to sprint and do that. Matt, before we talk, who we got in there already?
Hey, we missed him. We missed him on the Red Wings Rant show at the start, so we gave him that special call out because I skipped over his comment. So I couldn't. I had to jump in right now and say hi.
Hey, happy SmackDown Friday, Brennan. So hope we're pronouncing that correctly. Let us know if we're butchering that. But Matt, before we dive in, where can the beautiful people find us?
Find us at bodpodcast.com and brothersofdiscussion.com. Our YouTube channel, also the Brothers of Discussion. Same thing over on Twitch, if you guys want to follow us there. Mike, I tried to do Resident Evil 7, as I let everyone know a couple weeks ago, and little did I know is that you can't stream it on PlayStation 5. So, yeah. Basically, what happened was, if anybody followed along on my live stream, you got a black screen. You couldn't see or hear anything going on in the game, but you could hear probably my son, who's newborn, maybe sucking on his binky, and that was probably it. So you just heard, like you're watching,
sounds like a live action PT. If you just hear a baby screaming and sucking on something in the background,
I'm sure there's a lot of people on Twitch who are fully aware that I could not stream that game. So there's probably nobody that has notifications set up for Resident Evil 7 on the PlayStation 5.
Just some sort of like ASMR video. What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's last couple are at BOD podcast on Twitter and at Brothers of Discussion, Brothers_of_discussion on Instagram.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
Well, the A in AEW stands for ASMR. So there we go.
Hey,
we had a big meeting for WWE, and you promised
you
me
and
you're
I
going to make this quarter two earnings conference call interesting, Matt. All right, what do you got for us? No pressure.
Well, yeah, I guess that's our topic of the show. Is Vince McMahon says you could comb through the notes. He does actually say they are not competition, but this caller who started the conversation, so in on this quarter two conference call, brings up the AEW investments on the roster side. And that they're gaining viewership. What do you think about that, Vince? I'm assuming is what the guy said, because that's how journalists work these days. Here's a statement. Comment on it, please. I don't have time to come up with a question. Vince says, well, it certainly is not a situation where rising tides, because that was when Ted Turner was coming after us with all the Time Warner's assets as well. That was a different situation. AEW is where they are. I don't really know what their plans are. All I know is what our plans are. That's fine. But he continues and says, I don't consider them competition in the way I would consider WCW back in the day. Not anywhere near close to that. And I'm not so sure what their investments are as far as their talent is concerned. But perhaps we can give them some more. Zing. Right. Huh. So the big statement here is he doesn't consider them to be WCW. That isn't to say that he won't consider them WCW later. But we also know what he did to WCW. So that you could take that as many different ways as you'd like. But Mike, here's the thing. This is a company that since this show started, and we've been discussing WWE, we've been making fun of the line that Stephanie McMahon had, where she said they want to be the Disney of their industry. And we fought against that in so many different ways and have made fun of it. But that's their goal. That's their idea of themselves. That's what they want to be, is have all of these smaller brands underneath them in regards to these different pro wrestlers, the different shows that they have. Mm-hmm. And they're all going to be earning revenue and generating revenue because of the way that they either interact with each other, or they're so strong of brands themselves that can actually generate revenue as if they were their own business, even though everything's operating under the WWE, again, calling themselves the Disney of the industry. I am pretty sure at this point, AEW is further away from making that claim than the WWE is. So, to start this conversation off, I think it is fair to say that while AEW could certainly pass by WWE if they do not ever take them seriously, I think right now there's still a clear leader in regards to having your content viewed globally. And right now there is a pro wrestling standard trying to be created in AEW, and one that I think is selling a lot of tickets very quickly, like hotcakes. They're flying off the shelves, Mike, the AEW tickets. People want to see CM Punk in Chicago. A little foreshadowing to some future topics we're going to discuss today. But I don't think AEW, I mean, they'd be lying to themselves right now if they said globally, we are as big as WWE right now. So if Vince had said, I'm keeping I'm looking in the rearview mirror. I've got to keep an eye on them because who knows, they could be a reckless driver. And that's what you just do as a safe driver yourself. You always keep, you're keeping your wits about you. So Vince is in the lead right now. But, I mean, it's almost irresponsible of him to try and, I don't know. I mean, really, he's feeling the fire of these two fan factions, if I may, that fight all the time online to have the discussion of whether or not AEW is true competition for WWE. I just think the word competition is so broad that, of course, AEW is competition for the WWE. That's where I'll land. My first jump, if I may, in my exercise routine here to steal from the Olympics started with me saying, of course, WWE is in the lead, but also, of course, Mike, AEW is competition for the WWE. And as every new business they have to start somewhere and they need to grow. But I mean, this conversation could go in so many different directions, including what is AEW's true mission? What do they want to do? Are they aiming to be the next WWE, or are they aiming to be, I don't know. I can't really put a finger on what, are they just looking to own their area of pro wrestling? Like they are, I would say, easily above Impact already. So where do they go from there? And to go in a different direction would mean they start making decisions like the WWE and not necessarily, as some people might consider this, if I say Disney-fy yourself, I don't mean like make it kid-friendly, but at some point they're going to be creating these brands like John Cena that they'd want to have under their umbrella that are going to make them a ton of money. And as I also have as a foreshadowing here for another show topic, John Cena's must-see TV. So are they going to be building those types of brands underneath, like I said, their umbrella? So yeah, again, so many different ways to take this competition. I think Vince is right in saying it's tough to put a finger on what their plan is right now in regards to AEW. But yeah, where do you want to grab this, Mike? There's I gave you a turducken here, so you've got plenty of animal parts to pick from.
Vince is full of shit. This is just a pissing contest, and he doesn't want to admit that they are a competition. Are they a leading competitor? No. Can they be? Absolutely. WWE has a massive head start on AEW, but like you just mentioned, AEW is quickly gaining ground. I don't think it's much of an argument to say that they are, the number 2 promotion in the United States, and we'll see how that goes as they, conquer the rest of the earth and keep building bridges and acquiring and borrowing talent from, the Impacts, from the Ring of Honors, from the New Japans, as they build this spider web around the WWE with all the talent kind of rubbing shoulders and, starting to wrestle each other, not having to worry so much about brand loyalty, right? But yeah, in a way, Vince is right where, WWE has such a huge, like global following. As much as we rib them about the Saudi Arabian blood money, or, wrestling in India and in Japan, there aren't a lot of promotions that can just travel like that and, sell out WrestleMania sized crowds. It's basically just WWE that could do that. It's not that AEW can't, but they're not there yet. I think that the question for quarter 2, right? How do you see AEW kind of coming up? It's an answer I think Vince can give right now. But man, if they actually bring home, if AEW actually brings home Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson and CM Punk, woo-wee, does that conversation get interesting? It gets even more interesting if they were able to pillage somebody like Charlotte, especially after they have, signed her Andrade. I think that would be the one piece to really unlock this this feud, to really make this a competition. I think that would make Vince shit his pants. But I just it's just a pissing contest. They don't want to admit that AEW is really doing well for how young they are. They are selling out pay-per-views. They are getting people to not just pay $60 again to watch a pay-per-view. They're immediately selling out events. Doing really well with their live shows. And I don't know if a lot of I don't think I foresaw this happening so quickly. It's a hot ticket. I can't wait to go.
If we're able to, if we're fast enough to click, damn.
I know, right? So in a way, I think you can defend Vince, right? Because they're closer to being a Disney than AEW is. But if we change the question, right, is AEW like a real wrestling competitor? And with the smoke that they've acquired two of the biggest names in modern wrestling history, Wednesday nights are about to be really, really good TV. But we got a couple of comments here. We got Andre coming in, our buddy from Facebook. But this is Andre's comment: Vince should not take AEW lightly. Matt and I could not agree more with that, Andre. Andre continues: Tony Khan's house of spot monkeys can smoke WWE if they underestimate AEW's potential to be a leader in the world of pro wrestling. AEW is putting on some decent programming, and the fans are loving every bit of it. Yeah. Yeah. As far as like the Disneyfication, we'll make up a word, the Disneyfication.
Yeah.
That's WWE all the way. Whereas we definitely saw some examples here as AEW brought in Nick Gage for a cup of coffee. This is wrestling for people who love wrestling. And if you saw that death match, which really cracked me up because the writer for Bleacher Report gave it a D- because he said, I don't like death matches. So he just bombed the grade. But it was a thrilling spectacle. And the way that AEW has designed what you and I affectionately call the circus tents of pro wrestling, I think they're really doing a good job of, giving you all sorts of different flavors depending on what you like in the wrestling ring. So, Vince, I know what you're getting at, but yeah, just like Andre was saying, the competition's real, and I'm pumped to see where this goes.
I want to jump on what Andre said too, because one of the things that's clear is that tastes evolve. Music, of course, is so different. Comedy is different than it was 20 years ago. And you either evolve with it or you get left behind. And there's an audience in the WWE that likes what pro wrestling was, in the 90s and the 2000s. And I think we're all fans of that. That's not entirely where I want that spot to end, or that idea to end. I guess it's just one of those things where if as Andre put it, the spot monkeys, if that's what pro wrestling is to be moving into the next 10 years, if that's what it's going to be, and that's what's going to be selling tickets, then of course WWE's in trouble, because they have, like I say all the time. Now, I might not be a huge fan of the spot monkeys, but it's something with me that either I've got to learn to evolve or start to see the art in it, or I will be the fan who gets left behind because I just won't enjoy it anymore. So if we're going to be talking like the business, if we're going to be talking strictly, making money on this, it has nothing to do at some point. It's going to have nothing to do with what you and I are fans of and what we like and what our tastes are. It's just going to be, what's going to bring in the ad sales. I mean, right now, Pep's Blue Ribbon is trying to get Twitter or social media press by jumping on AEW and trying to become a sponsor for next week. I'm sure there's more to that I'm not aware of, but I don't know where that's coming from. But they're checking off a list when Tony Khan follows them, when Adam Hangman Page follows them, and that's something that's not happening with the WWE right now. And to continue the thought of whether or not the spot fests become pro wrestling in the future, that might not be as true as this statement is, that AEW is pretty fucking cool, and WWE has that idea in pop culture of what WWE stands for. Like, that's done, that's been defined. But AEW still has a chance to define themselves as cool, as they've tried to get Shaq involved, and the way that they get involved in like the video game industry. And they actually go pretty deep into, we are nerds of different things and pro wrestling. So nerds, come with us. We are your sanctuary. Where, and I think that actually at this point is more cool than what happens sometimes with WWE programming, and they try and stay away from the idea that this really is for nerds, and they maybe keep not like there's not like a 6-foot metal pole or aluminum pole between them and nerds, but it's definitely not the warm embrace that AEW brings to the table, or at least the way they brand themselves, that they're bringing that to the table. So there's that too. And, like I said, if that's what the customer wants.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, because I think we mentioned it like a week or so ago that WWE is all about moments. So they're all about trying to get, that big moment at Money in the Bank. We get Big E at the top of the ladder. We get Nikki Ash having her big moment, right? We get John Cena crashing a Roman Reigns celebration. But when you just tune into Monday Night Raw, it's not about moments. It's about that in between, right? Where they're just waiting till that, SummerSlam. So they're just kind of treading water. I think case in point is we had Keith Lee versus Karrion Kross, which that's a match I would love to watch. Like, I would love to see that main event. I would love to just see those guys beat the crap out of each other. Most Keith Lee matches keep me entertained because he's a grizzly bear of a man with the agility of a mongoose. It's crazy, and somehow like WWE neuters those guys on purpose because they don't want to give away the big cheese battle, right, where they actually get 20 minutes to beat the hell out of each other. So I mean, WWE will have you tune in on Monday Night Raw to just basically watch two gladiators stand in the ring and not really do battle. So when I turn on AEW, I get that the spot monkey thing can get a little over the top. I'm looking at you, Young Bucks. But when I tune in and I'm watching a guy with a pizza slicer cut open Jericho's head, I'm watching the Dark Order fight their asses off to try and overcome the Elite, who feels like they're just winning every single match, and a crowd is just dying for Johnny Hungy. Arguably maybe a top 3 or 4 most important member of the Dark Order. And he's just doing every spot he can to try and overcome and make it feel like Wednesday night, a victory on a Wednesday night as a member of a somewhat Survivor Series style match against the Elite. Makes it feel like it matters. So yeah, I agree that sometimes the spot stuff can get a little over the top, but when you're trying to watch and get invested in the weekly programming and feel like these wins and losses matter, and seeing guys put out all the stops, that makes me feel like, the victories that these guys are actually keeping track of them, because they're willing to destroy their bodies. Like Darby Allin's willing to kill himself for a victory at 8:23 on a Wednesday night. So I'm on board with this program, Matt, and I'm really excited to see what AEW has in store.
Quick shout out. Nakamura's got another new, I want to say costume. His new ring attire. There we go. It's looking pretty sweet as Boogs plays him to the ring. Yeah, I figured the two of us weren't really going to clash on this idea. And I think you're right to wrap this all up, that a lot of this, I mean, we go back to the old notion of any press is good press. So, I mean, what just got the most press, though, is just this idea of AEW being WWE's competitor. So is Vince McMahon saying that they're not competition? Is that ending this? Nope. I think all it did was make that idea that they are fighting, that they are rivals, more real. I think it, and there was an opportunity for Vince to just, laugh it off or say next question, but like even in the transcript, he could not stop himself from talking about them. So that's the thing. And if it got him squarely, if reading that transcript made you go, "Whoa, somebody miswrote that transcript." Nope, those are Vince's exact words, and he was going in circles himself because clearly there's something there, and you got to go by the choice words and everything like that. And Mike, what we're gonna do is keep moving.
Let's do it. Yeah. The other thing with AEW, we mentioned a moment ago, these CM Punk rumors continue to swirl. I know you want to bring up Kenny Omega's dumb tweet, but I'm just saying, it looks like there actually is some fire to the smoke, right? It looks like it is going to happen, probably in Chicago, the way they're booking this big show, this big event. But man, if Punk flakes out or something, and this is not dried ink on a page, woo! This is going to be exploding barbed wire death match all over again. This has to work out for them, right?
Right. Like the way that they're kind of hinting at it, and the winks and the nods. Yeah. And the way pro wrestling works now is that we all are fully aware of who's doing the surprise and whose contract is signed where. Like very rarely do we get surprises like we did with Malachi. And it'd be really hard to probably keep the CM Punk stuff hidden because everybody's going to be looking for it now. So there's one side of this where more than likely we're going to know what's up before the night even arrives. But if we find out, Mike, and the night comes and we're like, wow, they actually kept it hidden, and the show runs credits and we don't get CM Punk. That's going to be something where I hope that a lot of people have their eyes opened and they don't just say, wow, they got me. I hope there's some anger, because at this point it's a little too much for me for it not to be real. Do the Kenny Omega tweets of, what time is it? It's clobbering time. Like do that tweet because Punk is coming. But if you're doing that tweet just to get me to tune in to fucking Rampage and he has nothing to do with AEW, fuck that. Holy fucking shit, fuck that. The only way to save that, and I saw it posted on a Kind of Funny wrestling group page on Facebook, but it was, lights go dark. You hear CM Punk's theme, and the fans go nuts. You're in Chicago, and the music plays to completion. Fans are looking at each other. What's going on? And MJF walks out. And if that was, the biggest FU to the fans, or maybe MJF walks out in CM Punk ring attire, that's the only way to save that at this point. And I hope, that's my number two. My hope is that Punk is headed to AEW. My number two is that if he's not, then please God, tease us and have MJF come out.
Come out to Cult of Personality? Yeah. But if you watched last night, man, did they fan those flames. I don't know if you saw Darby Allin. He cut a promo backstage. Did you get to catch that?
No, I did not.
They just asked him about the big event in Chicago, and he was just talking up AEW, what a place it is for the greatest wrestlers, and especially a proving ground if you claim to be the best in the world. And that crowd exploded. Like, man, this is going to be unreal. I'm going to be calling and texting everybody I know to tune in because it's just going to be electric. I can't wait. Like, if it's real, is it real? I don't know. It has to be, right?
Here's the more.
Don't let Darby do that if it's not happening, right?
There's got to be There's got to be a fun way to take this conversation, because I think clearly we both want to see this happen. But I want to bring up the notion you brought up with Big E when he won the Money in the Bank, and I wanted him to cash in that same night, and of course I didn't get that. That didn't come to fruition. And you said you don't want to give up 2 moments in one night.
Yeah,
Mike. Everybody feels Punk coming at the Chicago show for AEW Rampage, right? Do you hold on to Danielson, have him debut the same night, and completely overshadow the Punk stuff because this is a huge surprise? We didn't know for sure Danielson was coming, or and that maybe they feud because of that. Like, what a fun way to get them started. Don't have them both start and beat somebody in AEW. Have them both start at the same time, feud at the same time, get the audience, on board, get them watching AEW Dynamite, because these two are going to be promoing, back and forth with each other. And they also are not going to immediately bury AEW, and their young roster. What do you think? I'm putting that out there. Do you debut them both on the same night for the surprise that hopefully one throws off the crowd for the other? Or are you hanging on because those are both going to be huge moments? Do you go for the biggest? Are you trying to completely outdo the Jericho debut as this is the biggest thing to ever happen in pro wrestling because it's Punk and Danielson? Yeah. Or do you get your 2 big moments on different nights?
God, I almost.
I should have put the hot. I gotta put the hot tag.
Brand the hot tag graphic out there, man. This is these are waters. I don't think anyone's prepared for. I mean, this is going to be a moment that you don't need a peep from the commentary team. And this isn't even a rib at JR, which we've been doing recently. This is something where these guys could just debut and you could just let the crowd react because it's that big of a moment. But yeah, I think that it's so tough. Like, I want to be calling in the great writers of our time. Like, call in, God, the Ta-Nehisi Coates, call in the Tarantinos. Like, we need to book that. We can't fuck this up. This is going to be one of the historic moments in pro wrestling fans' careers, pro wrestling fans.
It feels like a career.
Yeah, they're live.
Feels like a job.
It feels like a work. Yeah, this is going to be up there with the biggest moments. It sucks that for me, I'm sorry, that 2 of the biggest moments I can think of are Hulk Hogan related, body slamming Andre the Giant. And I can say that because I was there. No, I can say that because if I reference it to other people, they know what I'm talking about. Or Hulk Hogan turning on WCW. I guess Stone Cold existing. It's like that kind of just big bang, where the universe starts to expand after that. So it's so tough because how are you going to have one mega massive debut for Punk and then just try to do the next thing where people are like, all right, we saw that. Now where's Daniel? So it's almost like their first moment should be with each other, where Punk comes out to a hero welcome and Daniel comes out and destroys him and goes heel, and ruins,
That is a good question. Energy. That is a good question with which one of them, because they both do heel better. Most pro wrestlers are better at heel. But is one of them better at face? To get over, you know what I mean? You don't want one of their debuts to fizzle out. So is that the answer? Because there has to be something to doing the yes chance, because there's no way that WWE is going to be able to stop that.
You get yes chance, can you?
What's that?
You can't copyright a chant, can you?
God, I hope not. But right, you get yes chance if Danielson is the face. And you just get classic CM Punk if he's the heel.
That's in a much smaller degree, Matt. It's much like Brian Cage fighting Ricky Starks a couple weeks ago. One of the. Let me get to my point, because I prefaced it by much smaller, much smaller. All right, where they booked it for Ricky Starks to be the heel, right? And the crowd was not having it. They were so excited for Ricky Starks to beat Brian Cage, who outweighs him by 100 pounds of muscle.
Can I just say, in regards to much smaller, this is, you said the Big Bang for one. This is you accidentally have too big a zipper rolling around in your dryer while your clothes are drying. I would say that's the equivalent of the size of those two face heel categories. All right, continue.
No, I was just gonna say, you gotta try and weigh the crowd reaction to Daniel Bryan turning coat on a company that helped make him a mega transcendent star outside of the world of professional wrestling, and you're gonna try and turn him heel. People are gonna be so excited to see him. How heelish will he really get? You know what I mean?
Right.
Punk returning after 7 years, and we've seen Cody, Miro, Christian, all these former WWE guys come back and, cut these promos about, I don't need the other company anymore. And now we have the man who basically started those promos.
Yeah.
Either the fake one with the pipe bomb, or his interviews with, the Colt Cabanas of the world, and, that kind of stuff. Now it feels like we would have the poet who started that kind of thinking and speech writing and promo giving, just when we're sick of ever hearing those promos ever again. The artist, the creator, has an opportunity to come out and cut one against WWE, or maybe against one of WWE's biggest superstars former superstars in Bryan Danielson. So this is something that I would definitely be bringing in writing teams to just sit in a room, and we got to fucking figure this out, because I want this to land. I want to stick this landing. I don't want it just be pretty cool. We could really make this something. So that is the challenge. That signing those guys was the easy part at this point. The real challenge is, okay, now what?
Well, this is going to be fun, because I feel like this is going to be an ongoing conversation until we finally see their debut and see everything happen, and then we'll just be talking about how they
butchered it.
Hopefully not. All right.
Do a couple quick hits here, and then we'll do our Festival of Friendship.
A very fresh quick hit, Mike. Nakamura, Big E, and Cesaro go over Apollo Crews just now on SmackDown.
Andre's watching, by the way. I know he's a big Apollo fan. He's got some TV time.
Can we all pump? I just saw one of our good buddies, Mr. Warren Hayes, talking about, you can't even get Apollo. WWE can't get Apollo over even while he's Intercontinental Champion. I'm still of, the side of things where fans are back. This is a time for Nakamura, Big E, and Cesaro to have their moment, to get the crowd on their feet. From what I saw, that was a huge pop. Nakamura got the win. And what we did miss, because we're recording live right now, is the entire crowd coming back and singing, Nakamura's theme again. As, they definitely got away from when they changed Nakamura's theme, one of the biggest mistakes in pro wrestling history. But now that it's back, maybe that was the goal, was make us miss it so much that when it does come back, we're going to be thrilled. And I think this is going with the hot hand. Is this not the right choice to put over Nakamura, Big E, and Cesaro over Apollo Crews right now? Who's already champion?
Somehow we need the entire 80-man roster to win and get over on the same night. It's really hard to do. And I'm sorry, if I want to see Nakamura and Boogs get over, and I want to see Big E get over, and I want to see Cesaro get over, and it's at Apollo's expense, that's a transaction I'm signing up for tonight.
It could be one of those things where, we do Twitter wrong, because we're always constantly trying to crack jokes, and there is the side of Twitter where if we just did a few more controversial tweets, we'd
Now,
get the conversation going. So maybe that's what Mr.
could
Warren's doing.
Apollo be? I don't.
I'd
don't know.
actually be pretty angry if I saw Nakamura go down. So
It just feels like low-hanging fruit, right? To say,
Yeah.
wow, why isn't this guy getting a shot? I'll tell you why. Seth Rollins is out there with the loudest fucking suits I've ever seen in my life, cutting more promos of a lifetime against Edge. He's going to fight Edge at SummerSlam, and we're all going to be glued to our TVs. Can Apollo Crews cut a promo like that? I feel like he's had some chances. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm sorry. There's only so many mega superstars, and is Apollo the same as Nakamura or Seth Rollins? No. So he's on TV. What do you want?
No, I totally agree with that take. By the way, I mean that brings up another one too. Like how long until like Seth Rollins does get put back up on the pedestal that he belongs? Because I know social media goes either hard one way or the other with Seth, and it's because Seth thinks so highly of himself and he's so vocal about that, which is what irks people, and they don't like the confidence when it's not their favorite wrestler doing it. But goddamn, he's never stopped. He's never slowed down from being one of the best in the business for like, I don't know, what, 7-8 years now running?
Yeah, they moved him out of the main event, but he didn't stop being incredible at his job. I can't wait. I actually want to go to the outlet mall and try and find some loud-ass suits so I can look like Seth Rollins. Like, I'm inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing great work, and he's nowhere near being like the top of the card. He's going to fight 50-year-old Edge, and he'll probably have a hell of a feud and probably match of the night at SummerSlam. So is that at Apollo's expense? Kind of, but deservedly so. Sorry.
Mike, you could pick the next quick hit. I keep throwing them out because we're this is fun actually recording during SmackDown. I kind of like this.
Yeah, it's nothing too crazy. Just John Cena being must-see TV, and I've as far as like, you know, Punk and Bryan going over to AEW, that is just Godzilla-sized news in the wrestling world. But it's also just great to have Cena back and just, you know, again, remind us over and over how he is a living legend on the microphone, you know, with his charisma. And we'll see if he can still wrestle. My expectations are actually, they're not very high. And I'm not saying that he's a bad wrestler or anything like that. But it's, you know, it's been a while. We haven't really seen him go. And if he's going to go against Roman Reigns, who hasn't had a bad pay-per-view match since, I don't know, maybe since Moxley was employed, and it wasn't bad. It was just he wasn't like a focal point. He hasn't had. I don't think he's ever had a bad one-on-one pay-per-view match. I'm going to go on a limb and say I don't think it's ever happened. So I mean, Cena's got some pretty lofty expectations to, you know, rise up to. But he's been killing on the mic, Matt. And you said he had a really good comeback to Roman's missionary line last week.
Right. I mean, it was a good line by Roman that John Cena comes out doing the same thing night after night, and you compared that, of course, to being that couple that heads into the bedroom and it is performing missionary night after night. You know, not the most exciting thing in the world, but Cena, of course, first line of the night says, "Hey, you're doing missionary 15 years in a row. You got to be doing something right." And I just like the music, his music was still playing. Like clearly this was something that I think he thought of off the cuff. This wasn't one of the plans that they had going in for the promo tonight. But he still had a lot of fun talking about Stone Cold changing his character, making Dwayne the Tiny Johnson, talking about, you know, what he would have in his hand. It got iffy at some points, but it's just he commands your attention. He gets this. We've talked so many times about casting. I guess I bring it up all the time. He's perfectly cast in the role of John Cena. Nobody does that face character as good as John. And it's truly unique. It's truly John. Feel like I'm going to turn this into like a Budweiser ad or something, or a beer ad. Truly unique, truly John, truly Cena. I don't know, something along those lines. But it's I wanted to see it. I wanted to tune into SmackDown to make sure I saw the John Cena opening segment, because that's, I don't know, maybe it's me feeling, I could say like I wanted to feel like a kid again, but I was in my 20s when John became a staple in my life. So I wanted to feel like a 20-year-old again, Mike. I wanted to see John come out and rip his shirt off and
oh
yeah, run another promo into Reigns. Yeah, this is getting dirty. All right.
A big hug to Drew McIntyre. Big oily hug. Yeah, and just a really quick hit here. Just want to mention it. WWE was making mention of Bianca hitting 100 days as a women's champ. And yeah, it just feels pretty cool because it's not short-lived. And as much of a train wreck as it felt like Rhea and her reign was with, that Charlotte angle, I think people are kind of relieved it's over. They do wish that maybe Nikki Ash's story was a little bit different. But Bianca's really just, man, the crowd just really embraces her. Somehow she looks like she wears that belt really well. I don't think she's ever looked more beautiful, and she's literally glowing in the ring. Apologies to Naomi. But Bianca she looks great as that champion and doesn't feel like there's any reason for that to end anytime soon. Again, apologies to maybe Becky Lynch when she comes back, but we'll see. But yeah, we got to do our Festival of Friendship, man. We're getting close here to the end. I'm gonna say I'm really jealous here. Moment number 2, but I think mine was really top heavy. I think I have to go first again this week. So,
Greg nailed it. I completely forgot there's a drink called Truly, so that's probably where my head was at.
Let's do
Truly hard seltzer.
Our Festival of Friendship here, because AEW and NXT no longer on the same night, so now they're just friends, right? They're just a passing of the guard, the sun and the moon, But we do the top 3 moments and throw in a dishonorable mention. Oh no! But I'm gonna go first because I think mine was really top heavy. I think mine was really top heavy.
I'm fine with that.
But I gotta say, moment number 3, and it's a reminder of how fun it's gonna be when it actually happens. It's a reminder of how electric this crowd is gonna be. But I gotta say, Darby Allin referencing Best in the World. I don't know if there's other. There probably is other guys who could have mentioned that, right? And it would have been like, oh shit. But to give Darby Allin that responsibility to make that little wink, wink, nod, nod, to the crowd, I don't think they could have cast that any more perfectly that night. I didn't need to hear MJF make it at this time. I don't need to hear, my boy Jungle Boy at this time. I don't need to hear anybody from the Inner Circle mention it. I think Darby Allin doing it adds some authenticity because it feels like a challenge, and it feels like a challenge people would want to see. So cool little wink, wink, nod, nod moment there. Liked it a lot, and it got a gargantuan pop. Matt, it wasn't even a wrestling match, but that's how big of an impact I think his name was Chick Magnet Punk has on the wrestling world. Matt, your moment number 3.
Yeah, I'm changing mine up right now because I realized that I was going to mix in my dishonorable mention into my number 3 pick. So it just doesn't make sense to do that, right? So it's not my number 3 anymore. My number 3 is Samoa Joe challenging Karrion Kross officially. And this is just fun because this is almost a pivot for Joe. We love when he gets angry. We love when he yells Wendy. This was a chance for Joe to be more diplomatic. And I like the idea that he's keeping true to his word with William Regal and being more diplomatic, or at least trying to. So instead of getting angry, instead of having Karrion Kross come to the ring, Joe calmly, with a ton of sweat on his face from the lights, calmly turned in his letter of resignation for his management role, which I'm forgetting what the job was called. It's fine because Joe also forgot in the promo because he just said my role in management. Then he proposed where Regal was ready to fire Karrion Kross. How about you let me take care of him? And there's so much violence like behind those words that and to deliver it, like the future violence or the future acts of violence we're going to get from Joe, and it's just done in this nice, mild, again, diplomatic manner. I thought was very impressive, and it got you really excited, even though it was just it was meant to kind of bring Joe, end this relationship as that manager, and now when he walks off stage, now he's Samoa Joe again. But the brilliance of this too is that it allowed William Regal to really own, like to be sort of animated. He got to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think that's fun too. Like, it's basically Samoa Joe getting to be Samoa Joe again, and Regal gets to let go of the leash. Like that was his moment. Was to be the one who gave like the nod, who gave the okay, and he had fun with it too. So again, a huge change of pace for what we normally see with Samoa Joe, but it was a lot of fun. Mike, moment number 2 for AEW.
I dig it. Moment number 2, Matt, there's no way to not mention this match. It was the 5-on-5 elimination match. I get geeked for Survivor Series from WWE every year, and I'm rarely rewarded for my fandom of that pay-per-view. And I gotta say, as far as some of my favorite moments go, and it included a current AEW roster member, it's Sting, when he debuted, and Dolph had to try and defend the WWE against the evil Seth Rollins and the boys. And Sting came out to bail out Dolph and the good guys. Matt, this was one of my favorite of recent memory Survivor Series matches ever in this Eliminator. It wasn't just that the Dark Order came out and looked really cohesive. They really looked like like a formulated team. They got all their double team moves were so concise. And it just barely weren't able to eliminate Elite members because the Elite's hell of a team too. It wasn't just the Elite triumphing like they should. This is like the big bad guy faction of this promotion. It was also a reminder of how fucking fun wrestling can be when those motherfuckers came out to the Toon Squad entrance, and they badly dribbled basketballs. Omega dribbled one off his foot, and it was maybe the funniest shit I've seen all week. And when I opened up my Twitter feed, we all loved it, but it was just filled with and as much as we give AEW grief for ruining some big moments, again, looking at you, Barbed Wire Deathmatch, they have really hit some home runs with their comedy, and this was one of their grand slams. It was hilarious, and then the match afterwards, it felt like both teams really wanted to win. Elite wants to continue their dominance, and the Dark Order wants to finally get one over on these evil bastards. Everybody really got a showcase, but ultimately, of course, it came down to this crowd just drooling for the Hangman to, try and triumph over Kenny Omega. But the numbers are just a little too much for him. And it was a hell of a story. And it took up, the first 30 minutes of Dynamite. It was outstanding television. This was an A+ match for me. Matt, your moment number 2.
I'm gonna go with another promo, but we kind of got a swerve. Maybe the second swerve. And no, swerve was not involved. But this was Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez giving some pretty tame sauce. Like it was fine. Raquel comes out and says, "I beat everybody. I beat Xia Li." And then Dakota Kai takes over and says, "Hey, this is the most dominant performance that any NXT Women's Champion has ever had." Those are big words. And it was kind of like, the promos wrapping up. And we're just kind of like, okay, I guess we'll wait and see who's going to come out and fight. And Raquel goes to the top rope, starts celebrating. And, of course, this comes after my favorite line in NXT promos, at least just to something that I thought was going to be just some foreshadowing for weeks to come. But Dakota Kai says, "As long as I have your back, you'll always be champion." and they're smiling at each other, looking eye to eye. And what a line that is. That's Dakota saying, like, I did this for you. But instead of that kind of lingering and being a line that we come back to week after week, Dakota immediately kicks Raquel's head off. And we are now in the feud I've been dying to see. And I hope that we've been leading up to a Dakota Kai championship run, finally. And I as much as I think you and we both said this was Raquel's time, you had to give her the title. This is also Raquel's time to lose. She's clearly still pretty clumsy. And, even with Dakota backing her up, it didn't really get it didn't get more smooth as we rolled along here. The promo work still needs, a little bit of juice added to it. So give it to Dakota Kai. She's been waiting for such a long time. The last thing we need to figure out is who the face is and who the heel is, because it was still a heelish promo from Raquel. So if Dakota Kai is kicking Raquel's head off, you'd think that would make her the face. It'll just be interesting to see where we go from here. The NXT crowd loved it. They popped. So I'm excited. I'm ready to go. Mike, your dishonorable mention.
Yeah, that was just a really good double entendre. I like that a lot from Dakota, and I am a card-carrying member of the Team Kick fan club, so I'm very excited to see her come out on top, and I can fill my drawers with even more wrestling T-shirts when my Team Kick one comes through. But man, dishonorable mention. Oh no, for AEW. I don't know. Maybe seeing Matt Hardy on TV. I don't know. Maybe it's yeah, that probably bummed me out the most. I mean, we got I don't know. You know how they treat my poor women's division. They got a cup of coffee at about 9:20, and Thunder Rosa came out. She did actually get a hero's welcome, even from our old buddy JR, who they mentioned quite a few times that she's a fully contract member of the AEW women's division. Pretty exciting news. But yeah, we did have to see Matt Hardy again. I don't need to ever see him on TV. It's over. It's okay. It was a good run. I'm ready to move on. But Matt, that's going to take me to my moment number one. It's controversial because of how, for me, I'm controversial for my own pick because of how much I love that 5-on-5 match. But it has to be the Labors of Jericho. It has to be Nick Gage taking a pizza slicer to Jericho's skull multiple times. You remember, Matt, when Hulk Hogan would kind of rear up his ear to get the crowd going? And you go to each side of the squared circle and get their reaction? Nick Gage does that, but with a pizza slicer to Jericho's head. So he went to each side of the 4 ropes and further skinned Jericho's head into a little slice of pizza pie. My God, was this violent. We got to see the old 40-year-old virgin bit, too, where they brought out the old fluorescent lights and beat the crap out of each other with them.
I thought they were going to wax each other's chests, but I guess they're pro wrestlers, so they're already good to go.
There's no chest hair. Yeah. That's it's only going to work against Cesaro, Matt. But we got to see Jericho bust out a Hurricane Rana to put Nick Gage through the glass, a sheet of glass stacked between 2 steel chairs, and it was a momentous spot because not only did it look like Nick Gage's back really took some damage, not only did Chris Jericho eat a pile driver into a pile of glass, which I was a little scared of because I didn't know what to expect from Nick Gage. I didn't know if he was going to have a real death match. But when Gage's back crashed through the glass, shards of it and chunks of it went flying into the first row like a Shamu SeaWorld splash zone, and people were picking glass out of their hair, and it was a stunning visual on TV to see people going, "Oh my God!" and holding chunks of glass. So it was pretty crazy stuff, and like I mentioned earlier, it cracked me up for about 10 minutes to see Bleacher Report's writer not be a fan of death matches and give it a D. But this is moment number one because these 5 labors, they're not just going to be like it feels like we want to see the payoff, right, of Jericho versus MJF. But so it feels inevitable he's going to win. But the way they're putting these challenges together, it's really well done. Whoever's writing this portion, please take the reins of this Punk and Brian debut, because Matt, at the end, the other big event on my Twitter timeline, outside of the giggling for the Toon Squad entrance from the Elite, was the reveal, Matt, that a man from Jericho's past, is way, way long ago past, back in his WCW days, Matt, Juventud Guerrero, the Juice himself, is coming back to fight Jericho for one night in the Labors of Jericho. The way that this is booked is so fucking cool to me, because 1 week after being in a match, where we've, seen Jericho like wrestle abroad, and he's been in bloody skirmishes before. Now one of his labors, he's got to conquer a version of himself where he was, like cruiserweight champion. He did run the cruiserweight division for WCW, and now he's going to have to battle Juventud Guerrero here. In the back nine of his career. It's really well done storytelling, and this is easily for me moment number one.
Yeah, there's something to be said too that this could all fall under like the main event, and we're not talking about the AEW championship or the TNT championship. Like there's a lot to be said there that of how much time and effort they put into telling these stories in different parts of the card. Mike, my dishonorable mention is Ciampa and Thatcher going down again. This is going to be my number 3 because Ridge Holland returned to help Pete Dunne and Oney Lorcan win, and essentially they're building a larger faction. Pat McAfee moved on to SmackDown, so they needed to add someone, and Ridge has definitely got talent. And he's gonna look good when he's fighting Thatcher and Ciampa, but I just don't get, creating one of my favorite tag teams in quite a while where, you're just picking 2 random singles guys, but they told the story so well once they came together. The mutual respect from them fighting each other is what made them, a cohesive unit as a tag team. And it's just, it's another they fought well, but something got in the way, and this time it was Ridge Holland. I'm done with this. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, things that pro wrestling fans love to complain about. This is another one for me. It's the 50-50 booking, or the team that everybody loves didn't really lose. They're still right there, but of course they're continuing to lose. So it seems like the only thing I've got right now is just to hope for a Dusty Classic win sometime next year. that's it. But yeah, number 1 for me though for NXT this week is an easy pick. I'm actually at the time when I saw this was booked, I couldn't believe that Adam Cole was going to lose to Bronson Reed, but I'm actually pretty stoked that Adam Cole won, because clearly Bronson's moving on, and they still want to sell Adam Cole as like the main eventer. So this is another one where you're getting kind of mixed into the middle of the card. So I'm still impressed what they're doing here, because this is all about Adam Cole is still the best on the NXT roster, right up there with Karrion Kross kind of thing. But this also ends with Kyle O'Reilly coming out to let everybody know that NXT TakeOver 36 is going to feature, hopefully, the end of this clash between these two. But this is what it needed to get started again, and to kind of say like, all right, Adam Cole is Adam Cole still. Kyle O'Reilly has been winning his way up and down the card, and here we go. But yeah, ultimately this is a great match. Bronson is headed out the door, so he absolutely should lose, and lose clean, as he did. And doesn't hurt though that he still put on a good show for us. So again, to kind of go against what I just said with Thatcher and Ciampa losing, they just lose too much. I'm getting tired of it. But Bronson Reed, of course, had his runs, and this was definitely hey, you get a fun match with Adam Cole before you are completely destroyed on the main roster. So yeah, but that's my number 1, because I always like having a little bit of story wrapped into my picks, and this was a fantastic match and a good way to put Adam back on a pedestal and get that rivalry. I guess get the fuel back in there. Well, that wraps us up, Mike, for our Festival of Friendship. Anything else we need to go over? I think we're all set. We just watched Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair win a tag match, but then Sasha just turned on Bianca, so I think we have our SummerSlam match set to go. A little boring, a little predictable, but I think we're all going to be okay with Sasha versus Bianca 2, especially once Becky comes out and challenges Sasha at the end of that match.
Kind of a weird build, but okay. I mean, WWE is about moments, so you kind of mail it in between shows, and we'll see it at SummerSlam. So there you go.
All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Find us at BOD Podcast on Twitter, at brothers_of_discussion on Instagram. If you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button as this channel continues to grow. We'd like to, hey, let's not be bashful. We want to make some money so the show can have some more production to it. Maybe we can hire someone. Hey, right? Yeah, go to our Anchor page, anchor.fm. You can find the Brothers of Discussion. You can donate, and then maybe we'll send that money off to an intern who can help us tweet, because we don't tweet anymore. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We're having fun on YouTube and Twitch, so go check us out there. And of course, anywhere that you can find the podcast, subscribe and follow. And on Apple Podcasts, the subscription and the rating and the review helps us a great deal. So head on over there and do that, and that'll help us out. All right, thanks everybody.